Hi, this is Sam and welcome to Logic. When we learn English in school, we mainly learn Standard British or Standard American, but just like every other language in the world, English has a lot of different accents which are not just British, American, South African and Australian, for example. Within these accents, there are a lot of variations and British is no stranger to this phenomenon. The only reason why I'm making this very basic introduction is that if you're an English teacher, especially abroad, I highly recommend you do some lessons on British accents because students are so used to only hearing perfect standard British from their books and exams that they're not mentally ready to even expect other options, so it's good for them to be prepared. I talk about the differences between British and American over here, and at the request of one of my subscribers, it's now time for me to start delving into British accents, and today is all about Cockney. Cockney is the accent of East London and, the way I see it, of some parts of Essex as well. I once taught in a summer school and did a whole lesson on British accents, showing northern and southern accents, and I was shocked by my students' response. Whilst they more or less understood northern accents, such as Geordie and Scouse, they did not understand a single word of Cockney, which, in all fairness, was very thick in the video that I picked. I was shocked because up until that point I'd never really thought about the fact that I've always lived in East or North East London, so I'm obviously more attuned to Cockney, which is, for me, the easiest one to understand, but for someone who's never been exposed to it, it's indeed very bizarre. I've watched a few videos on Cockney and they mostly recommend you listen to big actors like Michael Caine to get some real Cockney, which I agree with, but I would also recommend a few other people, mainly because they are more current and part of our modern society. Some people will say that their accents fall into the category of estuary English, which is a mixture of RP and Cockney, but in my opinion the accent of these specific people has every element to qualify as Cockney. You should listen to Adele, who a lot of you already know, I assume, especially when she's on British talk shows, for example, The Graham Norton Show. Rylan Clark. He started out as an X Factor contestant, then his singing career was put on the back burner and is now a TV presenter and celebrity. Gemma Collins, who was part of a reality show called The Only Way is Essex, which I also recommend you watch, not for the quality of the show because, let's face it, it's absolutely trashy, just for the accent. And let's not forget a staple of British culture, the soap opera EastEnders. Before we start, I just want to make it clear that I am not an expert in accents, meaning that I can't replicate all sounds perfectly. So whilst the theory of what I'm about to tell you is correct, my personal production of some of these sounds may not be spot on. So I highly recommend you do watch the people and shows that I've mentioned so you can get a better and more accurate idea of what I'm talking about. Here you have a whole playlist on how to pronounce the schwa sound and why we need it. But when a word ends in a schwa sound in RP, Cockney makes it much, much stronger, almost like a sound. From now on we'll be going from RP to Cockney, and we have runner, runner, longer, longer, Sarah, Sarah, better, better, where the T changes as well, and we'll talk about that very soon. This second sound, which I talk about over here, is not one that I can replicate correctly and accurately in Cockney, so bear with me. But whilst in RP we have in Sam, Cockney turns it into a very open or almost its American counterpart, which is air. So we have happen, happen, cat, cat, album, album. Tends to be more closed. Top, top, lock, lock, knot, knot, Now we'll talk about 4 sounds that I used to make with a little bit of a Cockney twang myself without realising, because that's the accent that I've always been exposed to. So when I started learning pronunciation, I had to do a little bit of work to bring these sounds back to full RP. The long oo sound turns into a very weird diphthong almost, something like O. So we have flew, flew, shoe, show, you, yo, through, throw. The long sound E turns into another weird diphthong, something like A. Your mouth is fairly closed for a normal E, E, E. And I think the best way to create this Cockney version is to start with your mouth slightly more open and your jaw slightly more lowered than it would normally be for an E, and then you bring it back to its normal openness. So we have feet, fate, please, please, see, say. This is the hardest sound for me to make an RP. In Cockney, it's very, very deep, almost like an oi, and I do tend to make it very deep myself. I'm trying not to right now, but I know that I do that naturally and basically all the time. In fact, one of my subscribers picked up on it and asked me about it. When I learned American, it was the hardest sound by far, because in American it's even lighter than standard British, so it was the one sound that I tended to fall down on. I got to the point where I could make all the other American sounds correctly and with ease, but this was the bane of my existence because I had to make a conscious effort to lighten it up every single time. And the problem with this sound is that it's absolutely everywhere. For example, in the word I is in me. I'll try my best RP here and say I, mine, mine, time, time, bite, bite. When you look up Cockney, books and teachers tell you that the diphthong A turns into something like I, but I disagree. What I hear is more of an extremely open E sound, almost as if you pronounced the E in A as open as the E in bed. I have a whole video here on the inaccurate usage of the same symbol for these two sounds. I've listened to Adele and I'm pretty sure that she doesn't say light, she says late, but this may only be my own perception of the sound, so do take it with a pinch of salt and just see what you hear the most from other people. We have late, late, cake, cake, change, change. You can definitely spot a Cockney from this sound. The diphthong O, O, O turns into something like ow, ow, ow. So we have go, go, show, show, no, now, solo, solo. The diphthong ow turns into a very long open ah. About, about. Town, tan. Round, round. I have a whole series on how to pronounce the letter T and the sound T and the glottal stop over here. One of the most typical elements of Cockney is T-GLOTTALISATION, meaning that the sound T becomes a glottal stop basically all the time. In RP, we can only do that when the sound T is followed by a consonant. We don't say football, we say football. But Cockney does that even when T is followed by a vowel, unless it's in initial position. You can't start a word with a glottal stop. We have butter, butter, bottle, bottle, water, water, a bottle of water, better, better, about, or about it, a lot of water, a lot of water. I don't really know when and how often it happens, but k can be glottalized too, and you hear it a lot in the word like when it's used as a sentence filler. So somebody can say, that experience was like insane, like insane. Here you can find more about the following sounds in modern and traditional RP, but in Cockney it's extremely common to merge t and y into ch. It happens a lot in modern RP as well when they appear in the same word. So we basically all say tuner, Tuesday. The difference is when t and y appear in different words. In modern RP you can merge them, but it's also common to use a glottal stop instead, whereas Cockney mainly puts them together. We have that you did, what you want, We all tend to merge d and y into j inside the same word, duke. Education. It's more typically Cockney to do that when these sounds are in separate words. So we have, did you do it? Did you do it? He handed you a form. He handed you a form. Cockney also merges z and y into j. As you know. As you know. He loves you. He loves you. Another typical feature is H dropping. So we have home, own, head, ed, hide, eyed, how, ow. This creates a lot of homophones. Ate, I ate you, it, and. TH fronting means that the voiceless sound th sounds like f. So we have think, thought sounds exactly like fought, the past of fight. Thanks, bath, maths, and 3 sounds exactly like free. The voice sound v turns into v. Mother, father, weather, But whilst th can turn into f in all positions, th can't turn into v in initial position. So we can't say they, then. Sometimes Cockney pronounces it with a d instead, so day, den, but usually they tend to keep it like a normal the, they, then. I link my video on the dark L in the description, but very quickly, the dark L sound or appears at the end of a word or before a consonant, but Cockney tends to transform that into something similar to a w. So we have well, pill, milk, felt. And that's it for today. If you like this video, please don't forget to give it a thumbs up and to subscribe to my channel down below. And do let me know in the comments if you have any questions about Cockney and if you've noticed other sounds that Cockney does differently from RP. The ones we've covered today are only the most important and the most salient ones, but there are many more features to a standard Cockney accent. In the meantime, I will see you next Tuesday with another explanation video.